Alright, this is the video for the watercolor class for Mom's Group at Oasis. What you will need in front of you is some watercolor paint, 2 round brushes, which are these lovely circular brushes. You will need a water cup with water in it and watercolor paper, which is thicker paper, if you feel it, than your typical printer paper. Once you have that, we will begin on just trying some watercolor techniques. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to pick out your round brush that is the bigger of the two, and you are going to dip it into your water like so. And then you are going to take whatever color that you prefer. It doesn't really matter at this point. You're going to just swish it in there. You can add a little more water here. You want it really nice and liquidy. And you're going to just take that and you're going to try a wet, just nice big strokes here. This is called wet on dry. You're putting wet paint on dry paper. Now you'll see here that it's pretty translucent, so if you want more saturated color, you're going to add more. You can add more paint to it when you are on the dry part. Technically that was wet on wet, but the more pigment, the less water you get, is the more you get a darker color. What you're going to do next is you're going to do a wet on wet, so make sure that your brush is rinsed off. You can try the same color if you want, or a different color. And what you're going to do is, again, lots of water, lots of paint. You're going to make a square. And what you're going to do then, you're going to rinse your brush again, and you're going to get a different color. Lots of water, lots of paint. And you're actually going to take that now and you're going to touch areas that are wet. So this is wet on wet. And it goes, it will blotch, kind of go as the water goes. If you want it to run a little bit more, you can wet your brush and you can add a little bit water to the areas, and it will kind of spread a little bit more as you see fit. So there you go. Those are the 2 techniques we will be trying out today. Our next item that we are going to try is making leaves. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your small of your round brushes, and with some clean water you'll wet it, and you'll take some green paint on your paintbrush. Now I'm a firm believer of using mixed colors instead of just using your straight from your paint. So I am going to actually take a little bit of the blue or purple, whichever one works well, and actually just mix it in the green paint. Now this is going to make your paints a little bit muddier, meaning they're not the pure color that they come out with. And typically we would use a palette, which would be another just kind of a plastic container that you would just put your paint on there to mix it, but we're just going to do this for now. What you're going to do is take your paintbrush and you're going to put it on a slight angle, and you're going to start with a light pressure, and then you're going to push down on your brush and bring it up again. And that is what a leaf looks like. So you can do that again, add a little water to your paint. And like nature, we are not expecting it to be perfect. So if it doesn't quite look like this, or it's a little bit lopsided, that's okay. You can try this also with your bigger brush if you would like. And I'll try just having a straight without mixing any, and you'll see a little bit of the difference. So they can get the colors more green and less realistic if you use it just straight green. And if you were to do it really light, without hardly any paint, it gradually gets, so it's very opaque. At this point, if you want to practice your wet on wet, you would take your paintbrush, either one, and say you wanted to mix in a little, try a little bit yellow here, and put on some areas and just let it bleed in with the rest. You can also manipulate it a little bit to get that. For your roses, again, I would suggest if you're going to do a different color, I suggest you clean and rinse out your water so that it's pure and doesn't have any pigment in it. But I'm going to just go right ahead. Now roses, I didn't do a really defined rose, but I start, and it's really with really kind of a messiness of a rose. And I start with like kind of 2 or 3 dots, and then I go around and I kind of just make squiggles and gradually get bigger and bigger squiggles. It's okay if you touch the other parts that you've done here. Then now I kind of have the shape of my rose, and I'm going to go in and add a little more color to it, pigment. I'm going to maybe blend them in a little bit more so it's a little shapelier. There's less white space. Very organic, abstract almost rose. Here again, you can add a different color in if you would prefer. I'll take a little bit of orange and dab it in here. And that's just the basic kind of rose, very abstract. You You can try it in different colors. Again, you do kind of 2 or 3 dots, adding kind of squiggly, smaller squiggly lines into bigger squiggly lines. Doesn't have to be perfect. The great thing about watercolor is it's fairly forgiving because you don't have to have the precision necessarily. It's really nice when it has a little bit of a looser edge. Add a little blue in there. So I would go ahead and practice doing that a couple more times if you feel you need to, or you will go right on into the words and adding this to the words.